If they do that, the Cougars will be very, 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 very tough to beat.
Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it.
Just with 14 points, but you just look, the way that he dominated the game was in controlling the pace and making smart decision after decision.
Call the five slammer jam.
Go to peak the spot before or after.
The dream is alive for Houston. Go Cougs! Let's go!
Welcome into another episode of Let's Rage Coogs, presented by the Saxenian Family. The first Let's Rage Coogs of the men's basketball season. It's good to see the University of Houston men's basketball team in an official game, as we saw the exhibition game against Texas A&M a few days ago, but this time it was for real against Jackson State, and boy, did they look like one of the top teams in all of the country when it comes to college basketball. Number 4 Houston dominated Jackson State. We'll get into all of that and what we saw and what was a very lopsided affair. But before we do, I'd like to welcome in all of you guys that are joining us, whether it be on X, YouTube, whatever platform you may be watching in or listening. Of course, I'd like to welcome Da'Yon Dunlap for joining me on this Monday night. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and like you said, I'm just happy to see Cougar basketball back in full effect, see the guys out playing. I'm just happy that the season is upon us.
Yes, sir. Kris Gardner will be joining us shortly. He's live from inside of the Fertitta Center following Houston's lopsided victory over Jackson State. And let's get into some of the numbers. So Houston came out victorious 97-40 over Jackson State. It was really never close. The University of Houston Cougars did what they were supposed to. They jumped on them early and never looked back whatsoever. They were leading 52-13 at halftime, it was very, very lopsided affair. That is crazy. To hold a Division I team to 13 points is an astounding accomplishment. L.J. Cryer led the way for Houston when it came to scoring. He had 16 points for Houston in the opener, and Malik Wilson wasn't too far off. Had 15 points, was able to quietly and efficiently get up in the score sheet, and Juwan Roberts was the third leading scorer for Houston with 14 points, 6 rebounds. Milos Uzan, in his Houston Cougars debut, almost had a triple-double. He had 8 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, and only 2 turnovers, so he had a phenomenal team debut for Houston. Emmanuel Sharp did his thing, and really, when you look at top to bottom, a lot of Cougars played. A lot of Cougars scored. Literally every single Cougar that got on the floor tonight was able to put points up on the board. It was a total team effort, and really everything went right for Houston in this game. Like really what you expected it, but they look real good.
Yeah, they did. They did look good, and but for me, it was kind of just hard to judge. For me, I'm just kind of watching the style of play of the players, seeing how the new fits with the new guys, and kind of seeing how this team. I know it's only one game, but just kind of seeing how they play some of the roles, who they'll go to, and just kind of who the ball finds, and just some of those things. But I was expecting a blowout win like this, so really no surprise there. But one of them was just how they played offensively, who they played through. I know LJ's probably what Coach Stubbs was saying is going to be their number one go-to player as far as offensively, and probably will lead them in scoring. But just looking to see what different nuances that we probably could see. But it's only one game. I don't think we saw a lot. I'm pretty sure they just rolled the ball out and played a few different coverages. So it was just good to see the team.
Yeah, most definitely. You talked about a lot of those new additions that Houston had on the roster. Who is one that stood out to you?
I mean, of course, all eyes is on the replacement of Jamal Shead and Milos. I think he did really well. I know he had 10 assists, and I was really just looking for his playmaking ability. He looked really long and really rangy. So I think watching this team, looking at defensively with him as well, they're very long outside of LJ with a lot of length, a lot of people who could switch and play, defend multiple positions. But with him, I think it's going to be. I think his assist totals can be high with the plethora of scores that they can have. It
Yeah.
still looks like they're still finding their chemistry, but I think in an open court, this team really well. And I think I like the way his length and his ability to finish. And so this game one, I want to continue to see him evolve, getting ingrained into this Houston culture, and really kind of finding his DNA within the Houston culture, how he want to play and how he can play well within the system.
Most definitely. When it comes to this Houston Cougars team, really, um, not to talk down on Jackson State, but I think the real first test we're going to see is this upcoming Saturday when they play Auburn at Toyota Center and see what this iteration of Houston looks against Auburn, who a team that they played in the NCAA tournament 2 seasons ago and that is consistently in the mix, similar to Houston when it comes to the NCAA tournament in their respective conference. But when we're talking about this game in particular, and something that stood out to me going back to their exhibition game against Texas A&M is really, it feels like we say this every year at the beginning of the season, but I think this year, um, we're not saying it just to say it, but even more so the amount of depth that this Houston Cougars team has. They are deep in multiple different positions, and it's going to be interesting to see what the rotation ends up shaking up by the time Houston gets into Big 12 conference play by the end of this year. But we saw the return of Terrence Arsenault today after suffering the Achilles injury last year. We saw him in the exhibition game, but again, for the first time in the regular season game setting, he's looked good he looked good in the exhibition game. He looks good in this game. I think the biggest thing that I've seen from Terrence is there seems to be no hesitation with him. He seems confident about himself, what his role is, and every time he takes a shot, he does it with again, no, it doesn't seem like he's
No
thinking. There
hesitation,
were
like
exactly,
no
there were
thought.
moments,
Yeah.
obviously, most definitely when it was his freshman season, but even in stretches a little bit last year before he went down with the injury, that has not been the case early on in these first 2 games. Obviously, this being the official first regular season game, which is promising because that's kind of has always been from the first day he stepped foot on in U of H's campus. You know, the potential was through the roof. A lot of people were saying he was going to be the next first round draft pick for Houston, and I think now we're starting to see he's always had those intangibles, those skill sets, but now it seems like it's starting to click for him, which is really exciting for Houston because if he can put together a really good season, not only is that going to be good for his respective pro career stock and whatever he wishes to do after college, but obviously it's going to help the Cougars this year, and he's going to play a big role on this team. And obviously, we also saw the return of JoJo Tugler.
Definitely. I think I agree with everything you said in reference of Terrence. I saw the exact same thing. No hesitation. His form looked a lot more smoother as well as
Oh,
far as his
absolutely.
jumper. And I think he knows. It seems as if he knows his spots and where he wants the ball on the floor and what he wants to get to, as far as in the areas that he feels his strength. I definitely saw that, and it also seems as if I could tell he's a go-to player. Just watching the game, you could tell the ball finds the player, and the players find the ball. Who the players who are kind of the best players on the court. And I think there were certain times the ball failed him, and he made a move, an aggressive move. So that was good to see. But even with Terrence, especially with Terrence, when he's on the floor, he can guard pretty much 1 through 4, and some nights maybe at a guard some fives if it's some 6'6", 6'7". Depends on who the matchup is. But he's a multiple defender, and I really was really impressed. Before I talked about JoJo, you just mentioned him. Well, I'll go to JoJo because you just mentioned him. JoJo with the three that he made. I mean, I think they said it on the broadcast that he was just asked. Coach Sampson was referring to was just asked if he has the green light because he's been working on it so much. And Coach Sampson emphatically said no. Then you see game one wide open, shot it, no hesitation, and he made it. And so for me, we saw that last year with no hesitation. And he, although he missed it, so that lets me know that he's trusting the work that he's putting in, and he has the confidence. And everything else, as far as defense, he gets his hands and deflects so many passes, rebounds. He's just all over the court. His athleticism, his length, the way he's able to impact the game, and things that don't touch the scout sheet, that aren't on the scout sheet, from deflections to tip passes, tip rebounds, um, uh, shots, impacting shots. I think he's going to have a big year and even be more consistent with finishing around the rim. That's what I want to see from JoJo, in my opinion, is finishing the round around the rim better. Everything else continues to kind of fall in place with him.
This is a great comment from EI Crabtree77, who's joining us from YouTube. Welcome in, EI Crab. He says this is going to be a really fun team to watch all year, and they're going to be hard to beat. Really hard to argue after game 1 out of 1, and they looked spectacular. And he also added the assists game was legit. They had 19 tonight, 60% from three. Defense was solid. Caused 20 turnovers against Jackson State, which the calling cards for Houston. They're going to play great defense. They're going to rebound the ball. Now, if they're shooting as well as they did in this game, quite frankly, I don't think there's any team in the country that's going to be able to beat the Houston Cougars, especially if they stay healthy. Now, talking about Tugler real quickly before we move on, one of the other things that he does real well, and he's been doing real well since really going back to his freshman season last year, but 7 rebounds. He's going to be fighting for the boards, and he's going to be in the mix when it comes to crashing. Jawan Roberts, been around for a while, 14 points, 6 rebounds. Emmanuel Sharp didn't necessarily have an eye-popping game when it comes to stats, but Emmanuel Sharp's going to do what Emmanuel Sharp is going to do. He had 1 3-pointer, looked good, caught in rhythm, 7 points, only had 1 rebound, no assist. That might be something that maybe Calvin gets on him, but again, top to bottom, this team looks really good. Another player that I want to mention, you talked about Terrence Arsenault and how his shot looks a lot better. Another player that, one, you can tell has more confidence in his shot, seems better, is Ramon Walker, who had 10 points in this game himself, 4 rebounds, and it looks like he's been able to find himself, well, at least game 1, still very early before we can even tell and talk about solid rotations, but he's another player. He's been around the program now. This is his 4th year with Houston, which is hard to believe, going back to 21-22, and he's one of those underrated players that stuck around, and again, top to bottom, not only does Houston have depth, but they have a lot of experience. I mean, we had touched on 4 out of the 5 starters from last year returning, but even going into the bench, they have a lot of players that have been here under the system, and it's going to be interesting to see how that progresses, because really it hasn't been something that Houston has had much of, at least over the course of the past 2 seasons.
Right, and that was the player who I started to mention was Ramon Walker. He looks very confident. His shot looks very smooth and no hesitation as well. And I think he seems more polished offensively. And I think within that, we know what he's gonna bring as far as culture plays, hustle, heart, the ability to defend multiple positions, and his size and his length. But I think if he can be consistent offensively, and whether it be not going to get into his mid range, winning his one-on-one matchup, if the ball and the opportunity presents itself, he finds himself in a situation where he's in a isolation situation. I know there won't be many plays called for him, but tonight he showed that he can create for himself. He can catch and shoot from the 3. And I think as long as he continues to develop a more consistent offensive game with his team, I think there's room for him on the floor. I think whether it be foul trouble or whatever the case may be, I think if he becomes more consistent offensively, different scenarios, I can see Houston playing a lot with 4 guards on and with him on as well. But I definitely like what I saw from him.
Real quickly, we like to thank everybody that's taking their time out of this Monday night to join us here on Let's Rage Coogs, presented by the Saxenian Family. If you're watching us on YouTube or any of our the X platform, I guess our Pod Slam Jamma X account, join the conversation. What were your thoughts? What were your comments on Houston's season opening victory over Jackson State against the final score 97-40, and a very dominant outing for the number 4 ranked team in the country? And before we continue to talk about this regular season opener, we'd like to thank our sponsors for today's episode of Let's Reach Cougs, beginning with Steve Saxenian, who, if you've been with us over the course of the entire football season, you've heard about us giving a shout out to Steve Saxenian for being a primary sponsor of not only tonight's episode of Let's Rage Cougs, but each and every single post-game show after, well, each football and men's basketball game all season long. This is barely game 1 out of 31 for the regular season, not counting any postseason games that we will get at once March rolls around. But big thank you to him for being the primary sponsor. And of course, we also like to say thank you to Star Pizza for being a sponsor on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs with 3 locations throughout the Houston area. Star Pizza is your go-to stop for hot pizza delivery, free pizza delivery, I might add. They've been around since 1976, and be sure to visit them online at starpizza.net. They have daily lunch specials. Be sure to stop by every Tuesday or Friday, or why not both, Tuesday and Friday, for their all-you-can-eat pizza buffet specials at their location. So a big thank you to Star Pizza for being a sponsor on today's episode. Da'Yon, the one player I want to touch on that we kind of mentioned, but we haven't really focused on, Juwan Roberts, who, again, been around the program for a while now. He's kind of the anchor to previous teams, and he's probably going to be an anchor to this team. But with the win against Jackson State, he now became the most winningest player in Fertitta Center history, past Jamal Shed. So he has the most wins for any U of H player at Fertitta Center, which is 63. The ESPN Plus broadcast said that this was the 100th game played at Fertitta Center. So think about that. 63 out of those 100 games have been wins, and 63 of those wins have been Juwan Roberts has been on the team. So Houston, many more wins than 63, but 63 wins for Juwan Roberts. He has seen a lot of victories for Houston in the Fertitta Center, so he gets that badge of honor for the foreseeable future. He's going to keep building on it until someone maybe comes in and takes that title a few seasons from now. But for now, it belongs to Roberts. And again, it goes to really the anchor that he's become for this Houston Cougars team and really for the coaching staff.
Yeah, not a lot from him today as far as statistically, but just watching him early, he kind of set the tone, got his touches inside, got some good rebounds, and he's the anchor. I feel like he's not only the veteran, he's seen it all. Like you mentioned, his credentials and what he's accomplished at Houston. I think, of course, more games, better competition. You'll see how Houston depends on him even more and play through him even more. And I think they would even show his passing ability and play through him more, allow him to be even more as the playmaker. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like second or third on the team in assists, even though he's not a primarily ball handler. I think, of course, it'll be Milos, it maybe Emmanuel, or I wouldn't be surprised if J1 is right there second, right there leading team in assists.
On the topic of new players, Da'Yon, I want to get your thoughts on Marcy Miller early on. Barely the second game that we've seen him, just in terms of crowd setting. Potential through the roof for him, especially when it comes to his offensive skill set. What are you seeing overall? 2 games in, still very early. Not sure what his role ends up being once they get later into the season. Most definitely once they get into tighter games. If you ask Kelvin Sampson, he'll say a freshman, don't put any expectations on him. But clearly the potential's there, and it'll be interesting and really fascinating to see how he developed not only this season but for next season and years to come, because the potential is there. You see, it's clear. It's clear. 2 games in that we've seen. I can't imagine what they've seen night in and night out of practice.
Natural score. That's definitely what you see. Smooth game handle, and I want to see him in person, but on the TV, he definitely looks like he has nice size for a guard. And so he definitely looks like a natural scorer. He can catch and shoot, can create for himself. And I think he's one of probably the only freshmen who we can see in spurts getting some minutes this year.
Ronald Brown, welcome to the comments here on this episode of Let's Rage Coogs. He says, a well-coached team, basketball's here to save the athletic departments. So welcome, Ronald. Again, if you're just joining us on YouTube or any of the X channels, feel free to share your thoughts, your opinions on what you saw from the Houston Cougars men's basketball opener on this Monday night. And Ronald adds that he feels like 4 NBA players on this team, which this is a great point. Ronald, list them out. Who do you think are the 4 NBA players on the team because I think if we had to list them out, I think we'd put Emmanuel Sharp on there, Terrence Arsenault, JoJo Tugler, and who would the fourth one be? I think way too early, and I don't think it'll happen this season. But shoot, if it does, that means something went really well. But like we just talked about him, potential through the roof. Mercy Miller, the fourth one. What say you?
I think this question is not next year, just like foreseeing, like just generally, right?
Hmm
Is that what you're saying? And I think,
I would assume.
right,
But
yeah, just
see if he follows up.
I would say I think Terrence is going to be a pro. When we say pro, are we taking NBA? Hold
He
on, what do you
said
say?
NBA. He said
Yeah,
NBA.
I think Terrence will play pro. Milo's really looks like I got to see more from him, but I think the potential is there from him to be an NBA guard as well. I got to see more, but if say it all goes well, and he's developing this Houston system like he can with his size and measurables, and for me to be able to see more, I think he has the potential. Um,
Yeah, he says Sharp, Arsenal, Tugler, and Miller.
Mercy. Oh, JoJo definitely. Terrence, JoJo, Mercy.
Emmanuel.
I don't know about him, man. Yeah, in my opinion. NBA, I don't know in my opinion. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but when I watch him, I don't immediately see, oh, he's an NBA guard. I think it's, in my opinion, from what I've seen from him, I want to see him be able to create more offensive for himself. But in the NBA, there are specialists. Now, he can be a specialist, a 3-and-D player. He can definitely be that, no question. So he has the NBA potential. He can be a sniper, defend, and make some plays. So, but if I had to bet on it, when I see what I see in my eyes, I don't just jump off the screen and see. I would say JoJo Terrence. I haven't seen enough of Mercy, but I think Mercy, from what you hear, I would put Mercy in there. And those are my three. I think with the right system, right situation, I was just telling Chris, man, Chris having this conversation offline that J1 reminds me of a player like I just told him this the other day. He went to Louisville. Um, name skips me to come back to me. But I think J1 has the potential, just right fit, right situation. He can play a long time in the league and have a good long career.
I think for Jawan, especially if you could show off his shooting, we just really have not been able to see that over the course of his career with Houston. Uh, but we know he can shoot. He works on it every single day in practice. He's been doing it for literally this entire time that he's been with Houston. That could be something that really adds to his value when it comes to being an NBA player. And then going back to Mercy again, way too early. We're just
Montrezl
basing
Harrell.
it
I
on.
was thinking of Montrezl Harrell. J1 reminds me of,
uh,
he can have a
I could
Montrezl
see that.
Harrell type of career.
I
Undersized,
could
they're
see
on the
that.
same size, but you put him on the floor, he's gonna rebound, he's gonna finish around the rim. That's why I say right situation, he can be an NBA player. In my opinion.
Um, Going back to EI Crabtree, he says Malik Wilson had himself a
He
good
did.
game. His overall
He
game
did.
has really matured
He
again.
did.
One of the other players again under the radar, but he's not. This is now his
Right.
third season with the Houston Cougars, and you can tell he knows the culture. He knows what's expected of him, and 15 points under the radar. He's gonna play really great defense,
And it seems
and
like he
he's gonna
played his
rebound.
best basketball last year as the season late towards stages of the season. Like he
Yep.
was coming on and had really good games, and it seems like he's more comfortable, confident, and he looked really good today as well. So it's like it's hard to watch and see like where's these minutes gonna come from for Mercy. I mean, it's hard to see
Yeah.
because Terrence is gonna be the first one coming off the bench, and then with the ascension of Ramon offensively, but I think Wilson had. I think he's right there. I don't know. It's a lot. Like Coach said, where you gonna get these minutes from?
Yeah. It's hard. I think when we look at it, barring injury, um, just realistically, at least early on, even when they get to Big 12 play, which is, I mean, still a long way to go, but um, I don't necessarily see if he a lot of minutes, not because of it's offensively, but I think more
Not-
defensively. It's still a lot that he has to learn when it comes to the Houston Cougars and how they do things. Where Ramon Walker, Terrence Arsenal, Emmanuel Sharp, Malik Wilson, and obviously, of course, L.J. Cryer,
I,
Milos, Emmanuel. They're all ahead of him, and it's not a mercy thing. It's just the talent that is ahead of them. You're not going to play them ahead of all those players because they're ahead of them when it comes to
I will
um
say, in my opinion, what made Coach Sampson such a great coach is, although he has his pecking order, he watches the game and allows the game to dictate who's on the court. So I can easily see a game where Houston is struggling to put the ball in the hoop. The top guys may be off night. LJ, Emmanuel, whoever might be having a not their best shoot night. But then well, I would guess we're just speaking that with Merch's ability to score, and if they need a situation where they need a spark, basically is what I'm saying. If they need a spark off the bench,
yeah.
that guys in front of him respond. Coach Sampson will go to him, and then if he gets it going, ride with him. And so that's one of the great things about Coach Sampson.
I'm just excited to see what he looks like next year. He's gonna be one of those players that come year two. For Houston, the impact he's gonna have on next year's team is gonna be phenomenal and fun to watch. Yeah, Crabtree adds on YouTube. He says Auburn on Saturday will be a good test, hardest competition on paper for any Big 12 team this first week. Um, Yeah, again, Houston they have some familiarity with Auburn after seeing them 2 years ago in the NCAA tournament. Talk about the Big 12, UCF host Texas A&M, and already top 25 upset in the first day of college basketball in favor of the Big 12. Just a reminder how strong of a basketball conference this league will be. Every day is going to be, every night's going to be a gauntlet for Houston once they get into Big 12 play. Um, but yeah, what are some things that you're looking to when it comes to the Auburn game on Saturday?
The inside matchup with Broome and J1. I mean, that was box office last year. So I'm looking at, as far as that matchup, both players are veteran players, no college basketball, know each other, played against each other. So that's the matchup I'm looking to see. I don't know if you'll draw that assignment, but I'm sure at some point they'll be matched up against each other. And then after that, I mean, the guards. Auburn keeps good guards year in, year out. Tough guards, kind of similar to Houston, and they kind of mirror the intensity of their head coach Bruce Pearl. And so just overall, that's and immediately I'm going to be looking for J1 and Broom's matchup. That's the post player for Auburn. That's what I got my eyes on. Which team can win the paint, offensively, scoring, defending, everything like that.
Yeah, that's a good thing to keep an eye on. I think for me, kind of similarly, I want to see how Houston is able to. And they're going to defend well. We expect that heading into the matchup, and not just Auburn, regardless of whoever the other opponent is on the court. Anytime the Houston Cougars step on the court, they're going to play suffocating defense. Um, but I'm going to be curious to see if the offense is able to look as smooth as it did against Jackson State. Now, I'd be very pleasantly surprised if they shoot as well as they did from the floor, specifically when it comes to the 3 pointers, like they did against Jackson State. But um, when it comes to how much depth they have, I'm curious to see if the game's close. Um, Towards the tail end of the second half, what kind of the rotation, what kind of the roster is for Houston heading down the stretch. Again, still way too early um, for Houston to kind of learn and adjust, but curious to see what, like you mentioned, that pecking order is for Kelvin Sampson this early into the season and who kind of players have the most trust for Kelvin Sampson at this point. Again, very early into the season, but I'm hoping it's a close, tight, competitive game so we could kind of see what the Houston pecking order is and who kind of Kelvin Sampson relies on in a close game early on.
Yeah, and I think just assuming it'll be a lot of those upperclassmen, a lot of those players who have a lot of experience as the season goes on. Certain players will earn their way on the court via practice, like he says. And so I'm excited for the matchup, really, just to see them against another good opposition to really get a good sense of how the team will play and how they will look to win games this season. Like you said, see some of the rotations. And Coach Anderson will go to.
Real quickly, like to once again thank the sponsors of today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs, beginning with Steve Saxenian. A big thank you to him for being the primary sponsor of tonight's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. This is Let's Rage Coogs presented by the Saxenian Family. And we also like to say thank you to Star Pizza for being a sponsor on today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs. Be sure to visit them online at starpizza.net to see what they're offering in their menus. And again, they have daily lunch specials. Star Pizza, Houston's destination for hot pizza delivery since 1976. Be sure to, again, like I said, visit them online at starpizza.net or follow them on social media at starpizzahou. They're constantly posting content. Again, they're constantly giving giveaways. So be on the lookout. Maybe they'll be giving away ticket giveaways for future Houston Cougars men's basketball and football games in the foreseeable future. I want to take a look at the scoreboard around the Big 12. I mentioned UCF knocked off Texas A&M 3-point win, 64-61 in Orlando. West Virginia was victorious in their opener against Robert Morris, 67-59. Cincinnati absolutely destroyed Arkansas Pine Bluff, 109-54. Iowa State began their season with a victory, 83-44 over Missouri Valley State. And Kansas began its season with a 30-point victory over Howard. They were victorious, 87-57. Still a handful of teams that will see action tonight, or games that are close to finishing. Utah in action, Colorado, Oklahoma State, Arizona. So it'll be interesting to see. So far, Big 12 undefeated when it comes to men's basketball openers. So looks like Big 12 is going to be once again one of the gauntlet conferences when it comes to college basketball. That being said, kind of looking it back to the local perspective for Houston and Jackson State. Really, you mentioned at the top of the show that it's really hard to get any takeaways when it comes to just how lopsided this game was. But when you think about the Houston Cougars defense, what did you think of how well and how dominant they executed at the beginning to hold them to just 13 points in the first half? I don't care who that is on the other side. That's very impressive to hold them to just 13 points.
I mean, what Coach Sampson says that they like to recruit athletic, long, rangy guys, and this team is full of them. I mean, you're starting with the new point guard, Milos. Outside of LJ and Emmanuel, everyone else pretty much has good length, and so I think one of these teams will be one of the teams that gets a lot of steals. I think this team will get a lot of steals, cause a lot of turnovers, and in essence, will play in transition a lot and create a lot of off script points. And so I think defensively, um, the culture is still the same. The philosophy is still the same. How they guard certain actions, but I think with Terrence, with Ramon, with Malik, with JoJo, number one on that list, JVR, this team defensively has a versatile defenders with a lot of length. They will be able to deflect a lot of passes and get a lot of good steals and get out in transition. So defensively, this may be one of the better teams, especially how versatile they are defensively, and they can switch a lot. Although they don't have a lot of switching principles, I think this team has ability to do that. With the roster they have. And also, Ronald, I don't disagree with you at all. I think Malik can be an NBA player, but you got to be the right fit. He won't get enough minutes to be able to fully. Well, he could be, He could be because you look at Tajay now, although he don't have the athleticism of Tajay, and he was a different role. But I think he could be. I think Cryer could be an NBA guard as well. No disagrees there, but just my opinion was based on who like jumps off the screen, and I think for certain could be. Nothing is for certain, but you know what I mean.
I think for Malik, the biggest thing that he might have going against him is r- really when you see how he plays, he's able to um you know get to his spots, but I think it's curious to see at the next level when he's going against um really fully developed grown men, how he's going to be able to impact the game. So one of the things he does really well is be a solid defender, but I think the biggest thing that would be a detractor to him is just in terms of his offense. Is he able to consistently score enough points against elite defenders night in and night out? I think that's going to be the biggest question mark he has about him potentially playing and at the next level. I'm not entirely sure
And
he's able to do that. Great defender. Um, that's the biggest
and
question mark.
that's what I was thinking. I don't know if he'll have enough playing time to be able to show his growth and his full repertoire offensively. He's playing within the confines of a system. It doesn't and with limited minutes. That's why that would. But yeah, I agree with.
As for LJ Cryer, I think a couple things. He's a little undersized. Um, Obviously, we know he can score. I think it'd be curious to see how he does this year when it comes to consistently scoring. Production wise, he was relatively consistent last year for Houston, but there would be some nights every now and then where he would have an off night and a substantial off night at that, and really sometimes it would limit the impact that he would be able to have on the offensive side of things for Houston. So um, being able to see if he's able to be much more consistent, have less off nights this year when it comes to Houston is going to be interesting to see that from the perspective of LJ Cryer. But I think also being a little undersized, he's a good defender. Um, Again, I'd be curious to see how that's able to translate at the next level.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to see. I can think of some comparison players, but for me watching him, and there's no question he can be one of the best shooters, not only in college basketball, but even at the pro level. His ability to catch and shoot, but it's about with his size at moments. Can you run an offense? Can you ignite an offense? Can you play make? What are the other things that you can do? But stretching the floor, not down sure that he can do it. No question.
Yeah, Crabtree says he thinks Coach Calvin Sampson will have plenty of opportunities to play most of his players this year. He thinks that we'll see the game's rotation plus Javier Francis, who did not play in this game. Roster will tighten up a bit in February and March. And again, he's got a good problem to have. He's got so many good options to choose from. That being said, we have a good option to choose from, and that's Kris Gardner joining us from the Fertitta Center, following the home opener for the Houston. Well, home opener and the season opener for the Houston Cougars, coming out victorious 97-40. Kris, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm working on uploading a comment from Coach Sampson. So I can talk to you hopefully I can talk to you while I figure it out because I got to compress the file. It's too big. But Jackson State, Coach said it, and Jackson State, I think, has had only 2 returning players on this year's squad. One of them got hurt. So Coach Sampson's like, don't read too much into this game, and we'll find out more about the Cougs on Saturday against Auburn. So let's just let's not go overboard with this. And Jackson State is still a good team, and it will be better. But yeah, they only had 2 returning players. The rest of the team was new, and it's a rarity for Houston. But the Cougs had 8 guys coming back, so they got experience and talent, and depth and all that. So this team could be special, But let's not get carried away about blowing out a brand new Jackson State team.
Just saying we can't start planning the parade around the
Yeah,
Fertitta Center,
let's not do
Chris?
that. And also let's not freak out. I'm saying some of the things that Coach Sampson said, like maybe to pull it up. Let's not freak out if they lose Saturday to Auburn. Okay, Auburn's a good team. All right, the Cougs are good. I think the Cougs, this team could be special, but they have to stay healthy and they have to continue improving. All that coach speak, y'all know I'm old school like that as well. But I believe this team could be special. This Cougar team has the makings of a very special team. And a rarity, guys, this team looks like they have guys who can make shots at high percentage. They shoot well.
Multiple, top to bottom.
You know, that's a different thing. We might have to get used to that.
Yeah,
Da'Yon, you see
scoring
Ramon
52
Walker's
points in the first
his form on his shot? Ramon looks like a shooter now. How about that? So that's a positive. Malik Wilson. What, that 15 points in 20 minutes? LJ, Coach Sampson wants LJ to shoot more. He wants him to be more aggressive. So LJ has to get used to that. And he's trying to find a balance, you know, be a team player. But when you're the best shooter on the team, everyone who's followed the Cougs for a while knows that there are certain players that Coach Sampson gives the fluorescent green light to because he trusts them and their ability to make shots. LJ Cryer is one of those players. So LJ, Coach wants him to be more aggressive and let those shots fly.
Which is awesome to hear, especially building off of what he was able to put for Houston last season. And really, it's going to be him and Emmanuel when it comes to the backcourt that will be producing a lot of the points for the most part consistently throughout the season. Chris, what were your thoughts on Milos and his official U of H debut tonight against Jackson State?
He looked good. I like his potential. I like his potential that he can bring with his height, his length. I think me and Dan were joking a couple of days ago about I said to him, Los can get 4 assists a game just on pass to LJ. That's a minimum. He got 10 tonight. So I think his potential is upside. The length that these guys can bother opponents is something that is different. You know, Jamal Shed was a bulldog, intense defender, but Jamal was 6 feet 6'1". Los, 6'3", 6'4". Different body type, but he's got long arms, more of a rebounder. And this is one game, but he shot the ball from 3 with confidence tonight. So that's a little different that folks weren't, his last year at Oklahoma, his 3-point shot was not as good as it was his freshman year at Oklahoma. All right, Andy, let me see if I can pull this up. Let's see if this works.
Yeah. You won't know how much depth you have till you get in the conference season. You don't substitute like we did tonight the whole year, because these guys aren't going to play like that every night. Again, it's, I'm pretty sure I've coached over 1,000 games. I don't know how many, but I know what's coming. We're getting ready to find out Saturday. We could play really, really good Saturday and lose. That's how good Auburn is. But regardless of whether we win or lose Saturday, we scheduled this game for a reason. I knew how good Auburn was going to be. We need to play that. We need to find out. We win, lose, lose, but we're going to move on and play another game after that. But I think with the kids we have coming back, I thought we could handle a tougher schedule. Our kids are hard workers. We understand the importance of practice every day. Look at JoJo. You don't think we didn't miss that kid in March last year? He didn't play any games in March. We had him up until March. There's somebody who said, well, "What happened?" What do you mean? Well, Sid didn't look like he's ready to play. You're right. That should have been JoJo in there. we've been a hell of a lot better. But that's the way things go sometimes. But JoJo, J1, JVR, all these guys eventually are going to get in there together, and I think we can keep getting better. But our team has a long way to go. We're still that team tonight.
That's it. I don't want to. The press conference last 20 minutes, so it was longer than I thought it would be after a 57-point win. But I'm looking forward to the Saturday's game against Auburn. Auburn's a top 15 team. Janai Broom was one of the top big men in the country. Looking forward to that matchup with Janai against the Cougs big men.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be a good game. It's a late start. Late tip-off for us, but it'd be late. Let's Rage Coogs show for us. But I think the Cougs will win. But if they don't win, the sky isn't falling. This team, as all Coach Kelvin Sampson teams do, will get better month to month. And just imagine this team getting better month to month with the depth of talent this team has.
I think the key piece that stood out to me from his presser and the clip that you just did, he said this team understands the importance of practice and practicing hard every single day. And that perked my ears, but like you mentioned, Kris, they understand the importance of consistently improving. And it's going to be fascinating to see. Again, hopefully health is not a factor this year like it was last year. Which is not really something Houston can control. But if they are relatively healthy, this is going to be a scary team come February, come March, because of the different things that we have listed out over the course of the show. But they have talent. They have talent to spare. They have talent. They are spoiled with the amount of talent they have, and we mentioned the skill sets that they have, the attributes, they're lengthy. They have the opportunity to be an even stronger defensive team. Kris, like you mentioned, they have a lot of players that can put the ball in the basket. The ceiling for this team is very, very high.
This team looks like it could be one of the teams that all of us, the three of us, and then fans as well, have thought, what would the Cougs look like if they could shoot well to go with their defense? This team looks like it has that kind of potential. With LJ Cryer, the improved shooting form and the health of Terrence Arsenault and Emmanuel Sharp and Milos Uzan. And it's just, I'm looking forward to this season. Hopefully this team stays healthy. And when Emmanuel took that blow to his face, it looked like it was bad. It looked like, could have been a broken nose, but he came back to start the second half. So I guess trainer John Houston was like, no, he's good. So, and then said Lot rolled his ankle. And I was like, oh my gosh, the injuries are still back. A cloud is still hanging over the team, but he was able to shake it off and continue. But said in that steal and breakaway dunk, that was something to behold, man, because he was chopping them steps and trying to dribble at the same time. And then he ended up dunking it with two hands. And Coach Sampson joked that if there was 10 more feet of court, that could have been ugly. But yeah, I'm looking for this season in the matchups and the opponents the Cougs are going to face, and the games in Vegas and the Big 12 matchups. This is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, fans have been expressing how they have wanted for the last couple of seasons Houston to play a little tougher non-conference, and well, this is going to be a season that they play a tougher non-conference schedule. And obviously once they get into Big 12 play, we were just talking about it, we looked at some of the scores from around the Big 12 and what other basketball teams did to open up the season, and the Big 12 is going to be a gauntlet again.
Mhm.
Very tough games night in and night out. So it's going to be a lot of. By the time Houston gets to March, they will definitely be battle tested for the NCAA tournament. So it's going to be, like you said, an exciting season to see what Houston is able to do, and hopefully this is the team that can make it all the way to that first Monday in April and cut down the nets, the long-awaited, long-eluded trophy that really is the only thing missing for this iteration of the Houston Cougars.
Agreed, and I'm curious to know how many fans have purchased tickets, how many Coug fans have purchased tickets to Saturday's game. At one point, Auburn was doing a great job. Auburn fans doing a great job of buying tickets. Hopefully, Cougar Nation steps up and does their part and shows up. I don't think weather will be a factor, getting to the building. But I'm looking forward to the matchup. EI Crabtree is, posting about Auburn being number 3 in Ken Palm and top 10 in offense and defense. Okay. I mean, I'm looking forward to the matchup. As Coach Sampson said, he knew Auburn would be good. We're one game in. Okay. I know Auburn's good as well. I'm looking forward to the matchup. I'm not worried about rankings, polls, Ken Palm, whatever. One game. Let's see how the teams match up. I'm looking forward to it.
That being said, that's pretty much going to wrap things up for this inaugural season opener edition of Let's Rage Coogs when it comes to men's basketball. Again, like to thank the sponsors for today's episode of Let's Rage Coogs, beginning with Steve Saxenian, who the primary sponsor of not only tonight's show, but has been for literally all season long, both for football and each and every single men's basketball post-game show. This is game 1 of 31 when it comes to the regular season, so we got 30 more of these when it comes to men's basketball. And we have, well, at least 3 more for football. And heck, with the Houston, how the Houston,
who knows, 2 more wins.
Maybe we'll have an extra football post game show as well if Houston's able to qualify for a bowl game. A big thank you to Star Pizza, Mike and Jennifer Pittman as well for being a sponsor on today's show. Be sure to visit them at Hoop and Holler Houston on social media, on Twitter, on X, and on Instagram. And of course, visit the Star Pizza website, starpizza.net. Like I said, throughout the show, they have daily lunch specials. And be sure to stop by Tuesdays and Fridays during lunchtime for an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet. Each and every single person that took the time out of their Monday night to join us on this edition of Let's Rage Coogs against the final score. Houston, number 4 ranked Houston, I might add, comes out on top. They took care of business and win 97-40 over Jackson State. And Kris, I'll toss it over to you. Any final thoughts or anything you'd like to add about Houston's season opening victory over Jackson State?
The Cougs took care of business as expected. Jackson State was, overmatched. But Coach Mo Williams for Jackson State, he chooses to schedule the Cougs annually because he wants his team to get better and go against good time competition, big time competition. That's the reason why he does this. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Da'Yon and Andy, for carrying the freight for Let's Rage Cougs. We are family. We're brothers. So we're in this for the long haul, and we're looking for somebody, another Saxenian, Steve Saxenian, to come help us go on road trips. So let's put that in the universe and help, get in touch with me, Da'Yon, or Andy, to have Let's Rage Cougs on the road at some point in conference play a few times. So thank you as always for your support, for the fans and their comments and their questions, and look forward to y'all being a part of the show on Saturday. It's gonna be a late one. A late one. The tip off is at 8:30, and then that'll be just a practice warm up for Let's Rage Cougs on next Friday when the football team plays Arizona at 9:15 kickoff. So
that's gonna be oh my gosh!
Just ride with us, fans. Thank you very much for your support in Houston Round Ball Review. Y'all know it since 1994. The Houston Round Ball Review, local name, global perspective.
Da'Yon, what say you? Close us out.
I thought, I didn't know if you had went beforehand. Well, I really want to echo every sentiment that Kris said, most definitely. But I'm excited to see this team. Like we said, to kind of start the show, I'm excited that basketball is back. Houston Cougar basketball is back. And I'm ready to continue to follow the journey of this team, see who they are, and hopefully Coach Sampson and in the program can get what's long been eluding him. It will be the kind of the final boast of his career. Not that he's going anywhere anytime soon, but he's accomplished a lot. And one thing he hasn't, same with the program, is winning that national title. Hopefully, this is the year. I'm excited for this team. One down, a lot more to go. And as always, go Cougs.